Now, the ANC Youth League has warned that anti-government protests and uprisings could be the order of the day should government and the private sector continue to fail South Africa's youth. The party's Youth League president, Collen Malatji, on Friday addressed a march to end youth unemployment and a lack of financial resources to support youth-owned enterprises. Young South Africans turned out in their numbers marching from Luthuli House to the JSE.
We were just showing capital and those that we have deployed in government. This is a 10% of what we can do. Today we came back here peacefully. We don't guarantee that when we come back again there will be this peace. There can't be peace in this country when over 60% of the youth are unemployed.
Joining us is Zwelo Masilela, who is the ANC Youth League Treasurer General, to unpack this further. Zwelo, thank you so much for joining us in studio this evening, and a good evening to you.
Good evening.
We just heard, of course, the ANC Youth League president warning against those protests that could continue as well. Briefly, if you could tell us the aim of going to the JSE.
Look, thank you very much, and greetings to the viewers at home. We would have marched to the JSE in 2011 as the Youth League. This was a follow-up march to say what would have happened to our issues that we would have raised 13 years ago. And we are saying this is the last time we march to the JSE, demanding what should be a responsibility of those companies listed there. And further than this, there should be action on their part, failure for which we are left with no options but to take a clear mandate from the youth of this country that they are tired of the unemployment that is confronting them and the poverty that is confronting all the youth of this country. So today what we're doing there at JSE, marching from Johannesburg to Sandton, was to demonstrate our anger and frustration as young people. Correctly as put by our president, this is just a warning shot, and what we could do at a bare minimal to demonstrate our anger. Further than this, we'll do bigger than this, and it may not be controlled if the issue of unemployment is not resolved. We don't know how we will control the youth as well, because they're very angry and they're frustrated, they're unemployed, they're on the streets, they're on drugs. Everything that is wrong in this country affects young people. Everything that is a social ill affects young people. Now, there's no way we can, we as the leaders of young people, can tolerate or find a way to manage that crisis going forward. We would have to lead these young people to the prosperity which they desire, which is economic freedom. And that is exactly what we're doing today.
I don't think anyone can dispute those dire situations for young people, and that something needs to be done ASAP. Before you left for the JSE, you left from Luthuli House. Did you also make those demands of your leaders?
Look, our leaders, they know very well of our demands. And that is why we're saying, after this, and very soon, if, because we also requested a Minister of Employment and Labour to come and receive the memorandum, because the crisis of unemployment in this country rests at the doorstep of the Minister of Unemployment and Labour and Government and the private sector, which is listed there at JSE. We're saying collectively, if they can't find solutions, that is why the memorandum went to representative of government through the ministry and the private sector through JSE. We're saying collectively, whether they are having offices at Luthuli House, we will not be patient with them, because what we represent is the youth that is frustrated. And we can't shy away from the frustrations of the youth, because there are some people who share offices with us at Luthuli House. So if there are people at Luthuli House who share an office with us and they are at government and they are failing to take proper decisions, we'll have to act on them. So it doesn't matter whether we are in the same floor or same building, but if they are unable to take decisions, we'll have to do what young people are instructing us to do, because we don't take mandate from Luthuli House, we take mandate from the people and the youth of South Africa. which gave us a mandate to lead them in this country and provide solutions for the youth of this country. So if there are people who are not advancing the interest of that youth, we have no choice but to act against them.
Would you say that you are sort of grandstanding and that your anger is misguided as well? Because this is the governing party is your mother party. It's the ANC.
Look,
why not take the anger and the frustration of youth straight to your party?
Look, you would have to understand the structure of the economy of this country and why we march to JSE. Because the majority of the countries, of the companies that are causing unemployment is deliberate. Because the companies listed at JSE took a deliberate decision to de-invest in this country. I can say to you now, statistically and with facts, there's been no factories that have been opened in the past years in this country. Instead, all the monies and resources that they make, they go and invest them elsewhere in Europe and all other economies, instead of investing in the country.
Why do you think investors aren't investing in this country?
It's deliberate to collapse first. First, it's a regime change program to change the regime led by the ANC, and secondly, to cause a rupture within society and anger, because if you disinvest in the country, you don't create industries that will make the economy to create jobs, because it's not possible for government to create jobs without the private sector. I'm saying to you now, all the minerals are being exported in the country. Why are we not reindustrializing the South African economy, create more industries and factories that will produce all of these products that are being produced currently in Europe and elsewhere? Because we are saying, let's impose export quotas. 70% of the raw minerals must remain in the country to create industries.
But the ANC has been in power for 30 years where they've been able to implement such policies.
Yes.
Because without policies and laws, these companies that you are looking at that are listed on the JSE that are choosing to disinvest, two things here, Zwelo. One, they could be choosing to disinvest because of things like load shedding, because of things like water cuts, because of things like corruption, which are out there and known. So why would you invest in a space where you cannot actually function properly as a business?
It's not true that they are not investing because of corruption. They stay off the biggest corruption that everybody is not speaking about. They were listed there at the JSE. Nobody speaks about, even yourself as media. You are not regarding that as corruption because it's white people. The problem of corruption in this country, it has a color, and corruption is attached to black people. But be that as it may, we are saying there is a deliberate decision by capital, which is listed there at JSE, to disinvest in the country so that people are angered on the ground. It's deliberate, similarly to the way capital de-invested in 1994, and when they saw the prosperity of democracy, they came back and invested in the country, until they realized that the ANC and all its mass democratic movement structures are advancing radical programs. They de-invested in the country. We are part of the people why they de-invest, we, the Youth League, because we are calling for radical reforms which will make them not to be comfortable and not maximize profit as they are now. That's why they de-invest, so that people are angry, they believe the ANC government is failing, and then they put their regime puppets to run the country and run it down further without solutions that will cause and bring about employment in this country and reindustrialization, which is at the center of what we're raising.
So you don't think it's disingenuous at all to say that corruption hasn't played a big role, state capture, and let's include the likes of Steinhoff, which, yes, as this channel, we have covered quite extensively. So corruption, we have to admit that it is unattractive for an investor when you're looking at a country where billions of rands are being looted via corruption. I'm
just going to give you, if you speak about billions, all the monies that was mentioned in that commission of Zodo, that people stole billions, whatever, correct. Those billions are not equivalent to the money alone stolen at Steinhoff alone. So I'm saying multiple corruption activities that happened, uncovered by Zondo Commission, correctly so, are not equivalent to one corruption which is led by white people, white males for that matter, is not flagged as a serious matter, but multiple corruptions that are less than what is the biggest corruption at Steinhoff is not flagged in this country. You know why? Because the white males are controlling everything in this country, including the media, including the narrative. Now, we are not saying, we are saying corruption must not be fought. People who are corrupt must be arrested, they must be taken to account. But people must not hide under the skirts of a few elements that are corrupt and say they must not invest in this country. The same capital invested under apartheid, the West atrocity against the people of this country and black people, they invested in this country. Immediately, the ANC was about to take over in 1994, they began de-investing. Today, they are de-investing because the ANC and the Youth League and other structures that are taking radical reforms or calling for radical reforms are seen to be anti-capital. Therefore, the first thing, because you can't remove the ANC without angering the people. How do you anger the people? You make them unemployed, you make the youth frustrated, you make the youth go to drugs because of unemployment. By removing injection into the economy and making sure that you don't build new factories, you don't build new industries, people remain unemployed and they'll be frustrated. And the first person they will vouch against is the government, not capital. That is why we know the real enemy when we're going to them, because it's them who are deliberately liquidating political leadership and progressives in this country.
You say you know who the real enemy is, but who is ultimately responsible for enforcing laws? Who is ultimately responsible for enforcing that these companies, where we do know that 70+% of senior management in South Africa is white people? Who is supposed to be the lawmaker that enforces that affirmative action, for instance, is adhered to?
Look, Hans was saying, as part of, that's why the march is two-legged in its approach. We are saying government can't be left unscathed on this matter. Hence, we're saying, if JSE does not give us commitments that are tangible, and government, through the representative they sent there from employment and labor, in terms of our memorandum and our demands, we will have to take action and we will have to come closer to union buildings. We're not scared of going too much to union buildings. It's not like we have fear of doing that. We can do that any day. Today, we're demonstrating the perennial problem. And we're saying, if we realize that there is no commitment from both parties, we are left with no choice. Hence, I said, beyond this, we are left with no choice because we have expressed ourselves. It's not the first time that we express ourselves. And we're saying, by the way, most of you in this country don't know that capital is not using their money to undermine black people in this country. They use the pensions of our parents, our grandparents, who die without even experiencing and enjoying their pensions, because PIC money is used to develop malls which are not beneficial to our people. It's PIC money that is being used. And we're saying PIC money must be used to develop this country and create employment by building factories, not malls, which are consuming the very little money that is not even there for our people. That is the battle. And we're saying government can't be left unscathed, but we're saying the real player or the collaboration between those people listed at JSE and some elements. Because what has happened over the years in this country, capital has identified a few people in government or in leadership and make them bodyguards of black people.
Yeah.
So whenever we want to march, they say, no, black people are covered through some representatives, calling them BE shares or whatever deals, which are making them to be bogus billionaires and bogus millionaires, when they're very low, very well, that they don't have anything, but represent a blockage of our people from accessing the real wealth, which is industrializing this country properly for employment and for everybody.
Zwelo, thank you so much for coming into studio and having this discussion with us. I'm afraid that's all we have time for this evening.